On this episode of the NHL At the Rink podcast, we talked to Florida Panthers forward Anton Lundell. He'll be going to the Four Nations face-off for Finland. We talk JT Miller and trade deadline. We debate captains for the Four Nations face-off. And we talk about the Finland-Sweden rivalry and how great it is. All coming up and more on the NHL At the Rink podcast.
NHL At the Rink is presented by Skip, the official food delivery app of the NHL.
Welcome into another episode of the NHL At the Rink podcast. It's brought to you by Skip. Skip to the good part and get groceries, meals, and essentials delivered right to your door on Skip. Sean, we've got Four Nations coming up, but doesn't it seem like it's almost trade deadline season? Is JT Miller on the move? Is he going to get traded? Is he going to the Rangers?
It looks like he's going somewhere in that division. From what you read, the tea leaves, I guess. Vancouver's in a really tough position, right? They're not guaranteed to make the playoffs in the West, and they're not going to get fair value back for JT Miller unless their GM pulls a rabbit out of a hat. You almost never do when you trade in the best player, and I don't think a move makes them better.
It doesn't. It's actually surprising to me, Sean, that they can't get in a room and figure this out. JT Miller signed a 7-year, $56 million contract with the Canucks. He's in year 2 of that contract. He's 31 years old. He's in the prime of his career, but that prime doesn't last forever. He's a really good player. He makes them better. I understand there's been issues. There's been a lot of reports about what's floating around out there in Vancouver. But doesn't this seem like a situation where find a way, get in a room, figure it out? He's too valuable to them.
So I don't know if it's a unique take, but and a different take on what the Canucks should do. They should make a trade. It shouldn't involve JT Miller. It shouldn't involve Pettersson. Bring in somebody who can be a mediator. There's guys in this league that's their job, right? Glue guys, leadership guys that'll walk in even to a new team and say, this is it. This is over. We're here to play hockey. Identify that guy, bring that guy in, make it work. That's the best thing the Vancouver Canucks can do.
I agree with you. Because you're right. Listen, I mean, the Vancouver Canucks are on the playoff bubble right now. That last year they were such a good story, and you could argue last year fell apart for them in the playoffs because Thatcher Demko wasn't healthy, right? I mean, like if they had their number one goalie, who knows what happens? Maybe they do go on a bit of a run there, but it didn't work. He wasn't healthy, and it's unraveled from there. I agree with you. Like, bring in a guy. You mentioned that, and the guy that I think of, I don't know if he should be traded. David Savard from the Montreal Canadiens. He is a defenseman, so he's not a forward, but he's a glue guy. He's known as a locker room guy. He's a guy who can eat minutes, block shots, do a lot of good things for you on the ice. But wherever he's been, whether it's Columbus or Tampa or Montreal, teammates love him. He's got a voice. Now, I don't know that the Montreal Canadiens should trade him because the Montreal Canadiens are in a situation where maybe they're going to have to determine what they are, right? And I think it's still too early for them to determine what they are at this point. We still got time here before March 7th, which is the trade deadline. But David Savard is a name that popped into my head as a guy that the Canucks could go out and get and fill that role that you're talking about. But 100% I agree with you. I think the Vancouver Canucks should. Maybe that ship has sailed already, right? It might have sailed already, but I think they should have gone out, and figured this out to where JT Miller can make it work there because they are not trading from a position of strength. If they trade JT Miller, they're not getting back equal value. They'll get value back, okay? But they won't get back equal value for the player that JT Miller is. Then the question becomes of if they're going to trade him. It looks like it could go into the Metropolitan Division. A lot of thought with the Rangers, but some with the Carolina Hurricanes. I think he'd be a perfect fit there. And even the New Jersey Devils, which is a real interesting one, to be honest.
For sure, especially with the way the Devils struggled to score goals until last night, when they kind of popped out of it for a minute there. They had 3 power play goals and scored 5 against the Bruins. But I want to go back a little bit. You know, you talk about the Vancouver Canucks and what they're going to do, and it's amazing that it's January 23rd, and we're talking about the trade deadline, which
I
is
like how
March
you have to
7th.
look down to figure out what date it was.
Dude, I never know what day it is. I'm lucky if I know what month it is. But the trade deadline's not till March 7th, and there's a big tournament that's going to happen before that. And by the way, there's no roster freeze during the Four Nations. So
Yep.
business is going to go on, and there's going to be a lot of idle GMs with no games to watch, thinking about their teams and calling each other. It's going to be really, really interesting. But the Montreal Canadiens, how do they trade anybody? The players have earned the right to go to war with each other. They were left for dead. And they, in Marty St. Louis, pulled themselves up by the bootstraps and got back into the fight. I just used like 7 cliches there, by
You
the
did.
way.
You really
So
did.
that was
yeah.
that was
I'm ready to go
good.
run through a wall too, by the way.
Yeah. But they did it. And now they're in the race. And there's nobody in the East that should scare them, or Columbus. Like, every team in the East is flawed,
Agree. That I'll agree with.
right? So emotionally, they shouldn't do anything. Emotionally, they should say these guys have earned the right to go to the playoffs, to try to go to the playoffs. Intellectually, they're not ready. The best thing that they can do is sell off selected pieces and come back bigger, stronger, and better next year.
I agree with you on that. And the reason I agree with you on that, and I don't think it's the same for some other teams like Ottawa or Columbus, is because all of Montreal's young guys, they're not all there yet, right? So, like, they've got a lot of guys in the system that are not with the Canadians yet. The Senators have a lot of guys who have taken that step into their second contracts now. It's time. The Columbus Blue Jackets have similar guys that may be in their first or early in their second contract. You know, Fantilli, Sillinger, Kent Johnson, Marchenko, those type of guys. Like, it's time. Go for it. Get that experience, right? Montreal doesn't have all their pieces in place yet. So it's not quite time intellectually, like you said. That said, you know, you got to look at the value you'll get back versus the value you gain by going and playing meaningful games in late March and April and maybe making the playoffs, right? And so, and also, have the guys earned it, right? Like you said, like they've played really well. They've earned it. Let's table that though. Let's see where they're coming. Let's see where they are coming out of the Four Nations face-off. Speaking of the Four Nations face-off, Anton Lundell from the Florida Panthers, he joins us in a couple of minutes. Anton, we talked to him already, Anton Lundell. So we'll play that interview for us. Finland, he's going to play for Finland there. Really good stuff with Anton Lundell. That's coming up. But one of the you mentioned none of the teams should scare the Canadians or should scare the Blue Jackets. What about the Rangers, Sean? We've ragged on the Rangers, rightfully. They've earned that, right? But as we sit here today on Thursday, and I don't have to look down, it's January 23rd. I did have to think about Thursday, however. They're 6-0-3 in their last 9 games. They're fighting their way up. Their defensive structure looks strong again. Igor Shesterkin's on a shutout streak going into their game against the Flyers tonight of 164 minutes. He's playing great. Mika Zibanejad's playing shutdown minutes against guys like Eichel and McKinnon, and Brady Tkachuk, and he's doing a good job with that. I mean, are the Rangers back in your mind? They're flawed, but are they back to a point where, okay, now the New York Rangers are a legitimate playoff threat again? to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know that they ever weren't. They were playing some awful hockey.
I think that's why they weren't, Sean.
Here's my question for you. Do you think Igor was really hurt?
I think there was something bothering him because he doesn't seem like the kind of guy who will feign an injury to get some time off. Remember last year, he coming back from the All-Star break, right? He basically was just like, we're giving him some time.
Yeah.
And he took a week, missed 3 games. I think it was 3 games. And he came back really strong. I don't know if he was hurt enough to miss 4 games, but I don't know that something was off. Okay. Something was bothering him. But he even the other night said, I took that time. I was able to work on some things with the goalie coach. He probably looked at some video, along the way, refreshed. And he's a big family guy. And spending, he always talks about this, spending time with his family is his refresh. And he got some good family time there too. He's got young kids. And hey, he's been great since. Maybe not hurt enough to miss 4 games. They played well in those 4. They played better in those 4 games. Put it that way. Than they had been playing, and now they're really. They're playing meaningful games. Like this Columbus, Ottawa, Philly tonight, right? And they're doing really well in these meaningful. They handled Ottawa like it was nothing, and Ottawa had points in 6 straight and 5 wins in those 6 games.
First of all, how far have the Rangers fallen? Nothing against the teams you just mentioned, that those are meaningful games for the Rangers. Meaningful games for the Rangers should be the Florida Panthers,
Yeah,
the Toronto Maple Leafs, the New Jersey Devils, the Carolina Hurricanes, and they haven't been. Right? They're a second-tier team, and no way was I suggesting that Shesterkin was feigning injury. I remember last year and how well he came back, and there's no shame in needing a break, right? Mentally, physically, whatever it is, right? However you are going to play best for your team. That's why you have a backup goalie. That's why your backup goalie in modern times plays 25 games. I say modern times because I was at the Devils game last night when Jacques Lemaire was inducted into the Ring of Honor, and Marty Brodeur was there. And that cat played 76 games a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't do that anymore, right? So you have a B goalie or a 1A that's on your roster to play 25 games. How you choose to play those 25 games is determined by where you are in the standings, other factors, so on and so forth, the health of your number 1 goalie, where your number 1 goalie is mentally. So I was just curious if that was a way to get him reset. Because it certainly worked, and it made him ornery.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know if that's the best decision he can make, though. And what we're talking about
to try and fight Brady Tkachuk.
Yeah, I don't think that's the best decision.
The best part about that whole thing: 3 guys. Brady Tkachuk.
Yeah,
he started with Schneider. Then the goalie decided he wanted a piece of him. So here he comes. He ends up on his butt.
Yeah.
While he's still tied up with Schneider, Igor gets back up, ends up on his butt again. So here comes Matt Rempe to save the day. Linesman gets between him, and all Brady decides to do is throw jabs while Rempe can't do anything. He handled 3 guys in that scrum by himself.
And I'm not surprised at all. But in regards to Shesterkin, I was at the game, obviously covering the game, and I'm like, oh, no, that's a bad idea. Like immediately as he left his crease, I was like, that's a bad idea. And then you watch Igor's got fire to him, which I appreciate, from a goalie. Look, the guy he plays with, Jonathan Quick, has played with fire his entire career, right? Like that's his blue paint. That's his crease. You don't mess with it. He will take you out if you go anywhere near there, right? So Igor didn't like that he got run by Brady Tkachuk a little bit. And when he went after him, I just like that's a bad idea because Brady just started throwing and Igor can't he even said after the game, he goes, I can't drop my gloves. If I drop my gloves, I gotta leave, right? Goalies can't go. I don't think goalies can go drop their gloves. I wasn't aware of that, but he said that. And well, I think Brady just wanted to not get a blocker in the face, so he just was protecting himself. But it was not a great idea. However, he is playing really well. So I'm going to bring this. So we talked about JT Miller. And listen, we'll get to Anton Lundell here in a few minutes. He joins us, the Florida Panthers forward, talking all about Four Nations face-off. And we want to touch on something before we talk about that, before we get to Lundell. But should the Rangers go out and get JT Miller? I mean, is that the play for them right now to do that, especially if the cost is probably not going to be top dollar?
Well, if you listen to the reports, they already did it.
They tried.
Right. That was the trade that was in place, and it fell apart at the last minute. So, you know, it appears there's interest. I think Chris Drury, their GM, has to do something. The fire's not quite as hot as it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You know, and this whole thing, I think all along this whole thing's been mental. We've talked about it, right? Like the players had to work through whatever resentments they had. And that's what we're talking about with Pettersson and JT Miller. Like, I don't know how they did it. Maybe you know. You're much closer to the situation, but it seems that they worked through their problems. It seems somebody finally stood up and said, listen, we're here to play hockey. Stop being petulant and do your job.
Seems pretty simple, right? And I think maybe the game against
But
the
it's
Devils
not
right
simple.
Yeah. I think maybe the game against the Devils right before the holiday break is the one that, you know, it was the turning point, if you will. I mean, it wasn't a breaking. It could have been a breaking point. It could have broke them completely. They had 12 shots on goal. They lose 5-0. It was brutal. Came back. They lost the games coming out of the break against Florida and Tampa, but they liked the way they played. And since the new year, they have played much better. They're clearly back in the playoff race. We'll see if they can go out and get JT Miller. I mean, I'll tell you what, if for no other reason, to play defense against Carolina or New Jersey getting them, right? I mean, there is something to be said for that. But so we talked about Anton Lundell. He joined us, the Florida Panthers forward. But Sean, before we get to that, so the Four Nations Face-Off is coming up next month. Starts February 12th. February 15th, Saturday at the Bell Center in Montreal's Rivalry Day. Finland, Sweden, Canada, the U.S. Can we please get more of the talk, the rhetoric, the conversation that we got this week from Patrik Laine and Victor Hedman? Patrik Laine on Sweden. We hate them. Victor Hedman on Finland. Big brother against little brother. I absolutely love it, and I cannot wait till that rivalry Saturday at the Bell Center.
What did I tell you last week?
I have no idea.
I know, because you don't
No,
listen.
we were talked about the Sweden-Finland rivalry. Yeah.
Rock fight,
Yeah, exactly.
right? They don't like each other. And it was so passive-aggressive by Victor Hedman.
Yeah, it's great.
The big brother, little brother. He said it multiple times. He knows it's getting back to them, right? Like,
oh, yeah.
And Laine never, ever hides what he's thinking. You ask Patrik Laine a question, he answers it. There's no diplomacy. There's no anything, right? That's how they feel, right? Anton Lundell's going to talk about it when we get to him and momentarily. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And even the other teams know it. Like if you talk to players from the other teams that have been in international tournaments with these two teams, they know it. It's appointment TV. Like you talk to some guys from the U.S. team and the Canada team, and they'll admit in the middle of a tournament, they'll watch a game between those two teams because they know how crazy it's going to be and what the intensity is going to be. So it's going to be fantastic. But I could tell you that all day. We should probably have Anton Lundell, who's going to play for Finland in that tournament and who is a very important part of the Florida Panthers, especially in them winning the Cup last year. He can talk about it a lot better than I can. So we should get to that interview.
Let's do it right now. And the interview is brought to you by Skip. Skip to the good part and get groceries, meals, and essentials delivered right to your door on Skip. Here's Anton Lundell. Anton, thanks so much for joining us. So you got the Four Nations face-off coming up. It's less than a month away. I wonder, I mean, you guys like half your team is going pretty much, right? So, is it a topic of conversation yet? Is there genuine excitement now as opposed to maybe, a couple months ago when it was much further in the distance? Now we're just a couple of weeks away.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, time flies and the tournament is, around the corner. So, when the time comes, I'm sure we'll all be super excited. And, it's still it's close, but we still have probably, 15 games before that. So, of course, all focus is on these games with the Panthers right now. But for sure, here and there we joke about stuff, it's gonna be fun to play against each other. It's gonna be weird, but I'm sure everybody wants is pretty excited to play against each other too.
Is it really going to be fun to play against Matt Tkachuk?
Yeah, I can't wait to hear what he's gonna, chirp me about it. So it will be fun actually. I can't wait for that.
I'm glad Sean brought that up because, all right, Finland, USA, that's your first game, 8 o'clock at the Bell Center on February 13th. Let's call it 8:30. You go out for a shift. Matthew Kachuk goes out for a shift. Puck goes in the corner. You go to the corner. He goes to the corner. Who comes out with the puck?
Well, I'm gonna come out with the puck.
Now, will there be a battle? Like, I mean, or is it just you're just going to use your skills there and get it away from him because you know exactly what he's doing?
Yeah, I mean, we battle against each other every practice. So we have been battling a lot with all the guys that's gonna be the Four Nation. So obviously, it's gonna be weird, but I think it's gonna be fun to, probably gonna have some laughs before the game and after the game for sure.
Anton, can you explain for people who don't know, while you're in Montreal, you're going to play Sweden, and I've tried a couple of times to explain what that rivalry is like, but I don't know if I've done it justice. As somebody that's been involved in it since you were a little kid as a fan, all the way through World Juniors and every other tournament, can you explain what it's like for Finland to play Sweden?
Yeah, I mean it's just, one of those matchups, it's gonna be a great game. The team that loses, you don't want to lose. That's like the main goal. It's just like you're doing everything you can to win. And I guess the battle goes way, way back, even, a long time before I was born. So, growing up, it was always that, big game, against Sweden whenever we played against them, whenever I was able to watch the two teams go each other. So it's just in every sport. It's not only hockey. It's just like, whatever you play, it's you wanna beat Sweden, I guess, because we're neighbors and we face each other a lot.
Do you have a favorite memory of that rivalry?
I mean, for me personally, just growing up, when we're age 16, we gather our first national team, and we play like every second month. We have like 4 games against Sweden or 3 games against Sweden. It's like a small mid-season tournament. So I've been playing against them, tens of times. I don't know, maybe even 100 times. I don't know. So
Yeah.
just remember every game was super hard, and there was a lot of feelings in the games for sure.
For everybody who's going to be in this tournament, you're going straight from playing with your NHL team on a Saturday or the Sunday before to playing with your national team, in a practice on a Monday or in a game on a Tuesday or a game on a Wednesday. It's a very quick turnaround. Is there something that you've done that prepares you for that quick turnaround? Like when you were younger, was it like you just talked about, you're playing for a club team and then bang, maybe, a couple days later you're playing for the national team, right? I mean, is what prepares you for that quick turnaround and that quick change to go from playing with your NHL team to then playing with your national team?
Yeah, it's gonna be It's gonna be a little weird, but it's same for everybody. And we had some meetings in the summer, and the management, the coaches told all the players that we don't have much time, so we're gonna use the practices we have to go through some stuff, but otherwise just come prepared. And you know uh most of the guys have been in national teams growing up or playing world championships or world juniors, so our systems are pretty uh I wouldn't say easy, but like most of the guys have been playing the system at some point in their career, so I think that will hopefully help us as well.
Is that an advantage for Finland in the fact that you're such a small country and there's a smaller pool of players, right? Especially for this tournament because it's only NHL players. That because of that, you all have familiarity with each other and maybe you can mesh quicker.
I do think it's always been our strength when we get together, whatever it is, for juniors, for championships, Olympics. Everybody is ready to sacrifice themselves for the guy next to you, and it's just like you're ready to put your heart out in a game. And so I think it helps us a lot. We're very tight with each other, and good friends inside the team as well.
For you, what was your moment as a child when you saw the national team playing, like, oh my, I want to do that? Was there a tournament that you saw them in, an Olympics you saw them in, where it was like that's a dream to be able to play a best on best for my country wearing that jersey? And who was your guy? Who was your player? Who was the guy that you loved?
So yeah, I got a lot of memories, but in Finland, World Championships is the biggest thing. It's like Super Bowl to us. Everybody for this tournament, we watch every game, and since you're like a young kid, so that's when the dreams started for me. I think you saw the best players coming to World Championships. Finland won gold in 2011, which was the second time in the history at the time. So the country went crazy, and it was I was still 10 years old at that point, but I still remember people around the city, just cheering. It was like a big party. But just growing up watching Olympics, for example, like seeing all the best players playing against each other, you were like, that would be my dream to one day, be able to play there.
So whose jersey did you have? Whose jersey would you have wanted? Who was your guy for the national team?
So, well, my guy is Michael Granlund when he broke out, and he was pretty good in the world championship. Did the lacrosse move 2011, which went viral. So he also played in my favorite team, which I grew up playing for, also IFK Helsinki. So he was one guy I looked up to, and yeah, it's pretty cool. Now we get to play in the same team as well.
By the way, how does it feel to play with royalty? Finnish royalty, you have Barkov just named the Finnish Athlete of the Year. In the proud hockey history of that country, no hockey player has ever earned that award until this year.
Yeah, no, we'll see if he's even talking to me, anymore.
His head's getting too big.
Yeah, but his feet on the ground still. He's one of the most humble guys I know. So it's gonna be very fun to play with him. Obviously, I get to see him every day. In the Panthers, and we talk a lot. We're very close friends, and but it's also fun to see him putting the Finland jersey on, because he hasn't played in many years in for the country. You know, it's been a long break since he wore the Team Finland jersey last time, so I'm happy and excited to see him in that as well.
So I do want to ask you a little bit about the Panthers as well. And big picture here, what are the challenges that you guys have dealt with coming into this season as Stanley Cup champions? You know, like what has anything surprised you? What has it been like to play 40 something regular season games now as a Stanley Cup champion?
Yeah, it's been a little different maybe this year, you know. Obviously, I remember, you know, for example, when we lost to Vegas in the finals, every team, including us, we wanted to play our best game against them. You know, they were the champions at the time, and you wanted to beat them every time. So I feel like we have a little bit of that. You know, we feel that the teams whoever we play against, you know, any night they want to beat us bad. So we get every team's best performance, and I think that's a challenge for us, but that's also a good thing. You know, we have to be good every night, and we want to be good. So you're in a great place, you know, to play as the remaining champs as now. But you know, that's our challenge, to be able to get our best game every night.
Do you feel like your game's better? You're probably on pace to be close to your career high, if not more. Do you feel like your game is better than it has been?
I do feel my game is has improved a lot, and especially if from last year's playoff, I've been able to kind of carry it on to this season, and even, you know, been playing better from night to night than maybe before. You know, it's been my challenge kind of to at the same way as the team, you know, being able to bring my A game to every game.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said about the team, because you hear that, you know, a lot from teams that win the Stanley Cup, that you know, understanding that, you know, you're going to get every team's best. There's not going to be a night off. There's not going to be not that there is in the NHL, but there's not going to be a team that, you know, wants to play, you know, its backup goalie against you, or whatever it might be. But also, I wonder if for you guys, since it's back-to-back years going to the Stanley Cup final, it's a lot of hockey, and I wonder if in the back of your mind there's also maybe you're playing to win every night, but also understanding that where you are right now, let's conserve. Let's make sure we're building up instead of peaking up, you know, at one point, because you understand what it takes. You have the best understanding, you know, in the league right now of what it takes. You've been there back-to-back years. Is there a feeling of that, of understanding where you're at right now and we'll be okay? Let's just keep building a little slower.
Yeah, I do feel like we know as a team pretty well. You know, if we play a couple bad games, we know we have to bounce back. But overall, we have maybe a little bit of more of the calmness. We kind of know how we got to the finals 2 years ago. We know how we got to the finals a year ago. Those seasons were very different. 2 years ago, we had to battle end of the season to get points, and barely made into the playoff as the last wildcard spot. And last year it was a different story. We were able to get earlier into the playoff, but you know, that's the key. Whatever you have to do to make the playoffs, and then, you know, everything is possible. So yeah, we do have a little more calmness, I feel like.
You have to be honest with me now. How often do you think about the Stanley Cup? I know it's a new year, but I would imagine when you're alone and it's quiet, how often do you think about what you accomplished and the time you had with the cup?
So probably, I mean, like, you don't think about it like that much, but it does pop up in front of you a lot. You know, you see something or you hear something, like people still, you know, bring up, you know, about last year, or, you know, keep saying congrats. But I mean, it is a cool memory, you know, every time you think about it, like the picture up there, Barky in just like every time you see it, it brings a little smile on your face because it's something we're always dreaming of, and it did feel even bigger than a dream. You know, it was like something that it's not, it shouldn't be possible to do. You know, it just felt so big, and then we did it. So obviously, you get hungrier than when you go forward, and now the goal is to make the playoff again and win another cup.
Anton, that I think we can end right there. That was great. What you just said kind of describes what winning the Stanley Cup means to all you guys who get an opportunity to win it. So thank you so much for jumping on with us. We really appreciate it. Well, listen, hey, we'll see you in Montreal at the Four Nations face-off.
Thank you for having me.
Great stuff there with Anton Lundell. Can't wait to see him next month at the Four Nations face-off in Montreal and Boston. Then the interview was brought to you by Skip. Skip to the good part. Get groceries, meals, and essentials delivered right to your door on Skip. So, Sean, we talked to Anton Lundell all about Four Nations, Finland, Sweden, U.S., Canada. How about captains? Captains are going to be coming out here shortly. I don't know when they are. Maybe you do. Maybe you've got the insight of when the captains are going to be named for these teams. I have my thoughts on who they should be. I would imagine we have some similar thoughts, but let's go down the list. Finland, who's your captain?
Barkov.
Barkov. That one's easy, right?
Dude, he's done things that no other Finn has ever done.
Yeah.
He's beloved. Everybody looks up to him. Yeah, there is no other choice.
Totally agree. He's captain of the Stanley Cup champions.
So how about the big brother?
Or are they the little brother? We're going to find out. Victor Hedman for Sweden.
Dude, this is a bad segment.
I think it's going to get good in a minute here. You agree with Victor Hedman?
Yeah, no, I think it has to be Victor.
Okay.
He's the most accomplished Swede of them all. He has that presence. He's a captain already. Like it's just, it's a no-brainer.
All right. So we agree. We don't need to debate that one. Team USA. Who do you got?
You know what? I'm going to go out on a limb here.
Okay.
I'm going to say Eichel.
Okay. Why?
Because I feel like, A, he can do it. B, he's going to be the guy for them. Like, there's other guys, but he's going to define their success with the way that he plays the game. And I just think he's ready.
Well, I have no doubt that he's ready. And I had thought about him. I also thought about Austin Matthews, you know, being that he's the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. My call's Quinn Hughes. I think Quinn Hughes is a leader. I think he exudes leadership. He's had to deal with a lot this season from a leadership perspective in Vancouver and continues to play a dominant game right through it. I think he's very well respected among the American players for the game that he plays and the style that he plays. And I think it's Quinn. I think it should be Quinn Hughes, who already is the captain in the NHL.
So you don't think, and we don't know what's going on there. We've speculated. We spent the first segment of the show talking about it.
Know.
You don't think that whatever dissension in that room is a reflection of their captain?
I don't think so. No, I think.
Then what's a captain's job?
The captain's job is he has publicly talked about how the need to, to be together. He's talked about the need to, the appreciation he's got for these guys. I think privately, to be honest with you, there's some things that are just out of the captain's control. And I don't think that Quinn Hughes or any captain in the NHL right now has the role. Well, you know what? You bring up a good point because we talked about the mediator. I'm thinking about this as we talk here, right? We talked about the need for a mediator. And maybe that is Quinn Hughes. Maybe he's tried. We don't know. Like, maybe he has put in the effort.
I'm not saying he hasn't, but it hasn't succeeded.
We don't know. It hasn't succeeded. No.
Look, I'm going to go back again to the Ring of Honor ceremony last night, right? With Jacques Lemaire. They won their first cup. Scott Stevens was there. He was the captain. I'm not breaking any news here. That team, there were some dudes on that team not very fond of each other,
True.
but it never became an issue
Yeah.
because
Fair.
the captain looked at them and said, this does not become an issue. We have one goal. It's over there. Shut your mouth and play hockey. We'll solve it at the end of June.
Do you think Jack
And you
Eichel
gotta-
can be
and-
that guy?
And you got to go through me to
Alright.
solve it.
You think Jack Eichel's that guy? Well, I don't know if Team USA is going to have that type of dissension. I mean, they shouldn't. But
No, they
Yeah.
shouldn't at all. I don't know if Jack is. I
you want
think
that guy. You want that guy? It's Matthew Tkachuk.
and I wouldn't have an issue with that.
No,
Make
I
him
wouldn't
the
have an issue with it
captain and make Brady the alternate, and
maybe.
you're off to the races.
Yeah, listen. All right, you've poked some holes in my Quinn Hughes argument there. All right, I'll live with that. How about Canada?
It's easy, but it's not.
Exactly right.
It's Crosby.
Probably is. Should it be?
Yes.
I'm 50-50 on this. And the reason I'm 50-50 on this is in the moment, it's 100% Sidney Crosby. But Sidney Crosby is going to be the same player and the same leader and the same person, whether he has a C on his jersey or not, right? You're at some point going to have to, with the best on best format back, we're looking at Olympics next year, World Cup in 28 probably, Olympics in 30, World Cup in 32. You're looking at best on best for every 2 years, right? At some point, you got to turn the page if you're Hockey Canada. From Sidney Crosby to Connor McDavid. Connor McDavid, this is the time. I think this is right here the time. It's as what Gary Bettman referred to, an appetizer for the Olympics and future World Cups, right? This is the time for Connor McDavid to take that reign. Sidney Crosby's still on the team. He's going to be the exact same player, but I think it's McDavid who's going to be the captain of Team Canada for years going forward. Give it to him now.
He is going to be the captain for years going forward. Why would you put him in a position where he's forced to usurp his idol?
But he could be next year too. And at the Olympics, where Crosby clearly is good enough to keep playing on that team too. So
Yeah.
you're saying keep going with Crosby until he is off the roster.
Yeah.
I think you give it to McDavid when
He's-
Crosby's on the roster and they together work it as leaders.
He's everybody's idol.
Yeah. That's okay.
Why would you embarrass him?
I don't think it's an embarrassment. I really don't.
It is.
I don't think so. I think you look at Crosby and if I had to bet, I would bet that Sidney Crosby would be on board with it in the way that John Tavares was on board with it for Austin Matthews to take the captaincy in Toronto. The way
Of
that
course he would be on board with it because he's the ultimate professional, which is why he's the captain. But why would you tarnish his legacy when it doesn't need to be tarnished? There's nothing.
that's not
there's nothing.
tarnishing his legacy.
Yes, it is.
No,
He
it's
should be the
not.
captain of Canada until he's no longer on the team. He's earned that right.
Well, we disagree.
He had to wait his turn.
Right. Well, and listen, we disagree. I think it's time. I think you use this time when they're together to make that change, elevate McDavid, but Crosby's still right there with him. And then whether it's next year at the Olympics or it's the 2028 World Cup, whenever it is, it's McDavid's show all alone. That's
So you
I don't think you can
want-
make a wrong decision. Okay, I'm going to tell you
So-
that I don't think it's a wrong decision. I don't think you can
So
make a
you-
wrong decision.
So you want McDavid
Yes.
in a 10-day tournament where all the pressure is going to be on Canada
Yeah, handle it.
to not only worry about playing the
Yeah,
games, but to worry about navigating the fallout of a
yeah,
decision that you don't need to make. You
Uh,
want to put that much extra on his plate.
yeah. I think you can handle it.
And
I don't have any issue with that.
there's no question he can handle it, but why would you put more on someone's plate when the stakes are already so high? You're creating problems that don't exist.
I don't think it's problems. I think you're
If if
creating.
if you
I,
name
I don't think you're
Crosby,
creating
if you name
problems.
Crosby captain, nobody would blink an eye.
No, but I don't think you're creating
But
problems.
if you
There's a
name
reason.
McDavid, if you name McDavid captain, people are going to blink an eye. People are going to question it. People are going to say, whether Crosby's on board or not, people are going to say, why are you dissing that guy? He's given his all for this country, and now you're marginalizing him because this other guy came along. It's his team. It's his right. He's earned it.
But you said at the start of this debate, it's an easy decision, but it's not. So why isn't it with Canada?
Because Connor deserves to be captain. He'd be captain on any of the other three teams. But none of those teams have Crosby, who is the most iconic player in the Canadian solar system. He scored the biggest goal in the history of Canadian hockey. I'm sorry, Paul Henderson.
I was going to say, there'll be people that argue that. I agree with you. It's the most important goal. But
Because we both sat there and watched it, Dan.
We
That's why
watched
it's
it,
the
yeah.
most important goal. But he owns everything to do with Canada.
McDavid
Everything. He's won cups.
Yeah, he has. McDavid has taken over as the face of the National Hockey League. He should be the face of the Canadian national team. It is his time to do that. It's not a diss on Crosby. It's moving forward.
You don't think it'll be seen that way?
I truly don't. But we'll
Okay.
see. And but
You
by the
have-
way,
You have way more faith in the media than I do.
by the way, I don't think it'll matter so much. But by the way, I think Crosby's going to be the captain. Okay. I think that's going to happen. So I don't think this whole thing is going to be a thing. But you know what? I'm looking ahead at Connor McDavid.
He
By
has
the way,
plenty of time. He has plenty of time.
Sean, we've gone on along here, and we wanted to get to a few other topics. Jacob Markstrom's injury and the impact that could potentially have on the Devils and Sweden. Kirill Kaprizov's back in the lineup Thursday. They were 7-5, the Minnesota Wild, without Kaprizov. He's back. This is a huge. I mean, he had 50 points in 34 games coming in, before his injury. It's a huge addition to a team that was able to stay stable, if you will, without their best player.
He missed a month. He still leads the Minnesota Wild in scoring.
Yeah.
He missed a month. He has a
Is that good?
9-point lead on anybody else in the Wild.
Look, and Brock Faber's back in their lineup. They're still missing Jonas Brodin and Marcus Johansson. I'm curious to see what they could potentially do. I think, as the trade deadline comes around on March 7th, Brock Nelson is a guy the New York Islanders might be moving. He's a Minnesota guy, a War Road guy. Billy Guerin picked him to play for Team USA. There's a great story there. I'm working on it now. It'll be out next week. But Brock Nelson, if the Islanders are going to move him, to me, that Minnesota is one of the perfect fits for a guy like that. They just got to make the cap work.
Yeah, I think it would be. I want to say negligent, but I don't know if that's the right term to not trade Brock Nelson.
Oh, but here's the question, and before we get out of here, do you trade him before the Four Nations?
Or during. And
How
he
about
has
that?
to come back to a new team.
That'd be tight. I'll take that. It'd be a great story to work on there at Four Nations. But you understand, it's years ago now. It's 11 years ago now. But John Tavares went the Olympics, got hurt, missed the rest of the season, in Sochi. I think the same thing happened to Rick DiPietro, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe a little history there with the Islanders. But if the Islanders are going to move him, wouldn't the prudent decision be to move him before he goes and plays in a tournament that's not even for your team and risks injury there, and then you can't move him? I mean, the prudent decision would be to move him before then.
Yeah, it would. Maybe the price is bigger the longer you wait. I
Maybe
don't
he has
know
a big
because
tournament and the price goes up.
I'll tell you one thing. With the way that things are bottled up right now, there's only like 3 sellers. We
As
didn't
of
even
now.
talk about the Nashville Predators, who for months we thought would be a seller, and now are starting to win. And you start to think about last year when they went on that run after they couldn't go see U2, which I would have been happy about. I wouldn't have been pissed about it. If somebody told me I can't go see U2, I would have been like, great. But that's just my personal opinion. But maybe they got another late season run in them. Maybe they're not a seller. So there's going to be a limited number of sellers because of how tight it is around the mushy middle, which, by the way, I was listening to Sirius Radio last night, and Marty Biron was on, and he called it the middling middle.
Middling middle. It's better than mushy.
Yes, I think we should adopt.
Marty's got
middling
a better grasp on the English language than I do.
middle. He's got a better vocabulary for sure than either one of us.
By the way, speaking of Nashville, their next 8 games before the Four Nations face-off, pretty easy schedule if you look at it. Now, people could be looking
There's
at Nashville.
nothing easy for Nashville.
People could be looking at Nashville and saying that's an easy opponent, but they've won 4 games in a row. They got the Sharks, Ducks, Canucks, Sabres, Penguins, Senators, Blackhawks, Sabres. Only one of those teams is in a playoff spot right now, and that's the Senators. So it'll be interesting. It'll be something we can talk about next week, along with, let's see where the Devils are with Markstrom. There's a lot. There's a lot still to talk about. We'll hit on it next week, Sean. But this was fun. We debated. You may have won the debates today. I might say that, but I'm very hesitant to say that, and I'll say it quietly. And
You could say it off the air, Dan. That's all right.
no, I think you did. I think you won the debates today. But that's it. That's the show. So we don't need to worry about that anymore.
I'm like Peyton Manning.
I don't know how that is.
Debating Manning.
Oh, debate me, please. All right, that is the worst way to end the show. But let's do it anyway. Podcast is brought to you by Skip. Skip to the good part. Get groceries, meals, and essentials delivered right to your door on Skip. Enjoy the hockey.